because I've done the other way, and that, and we can get into that. I've done the grinds. I have, gone with an incredibly amount of little sleep, or trying to build something that's just like it's just like not peaceful, where it's not coming together and it's just like continuously falling apart and just not, you just kind of hit, dead end after dead end and everything like that. And there's obviously challenges and stuff like that in business. And this one hasn't been easy by any means, but it's felt peaceful, where it's like the work that you put in, it's like, oh, like it's growing, where it's like, people are buying into the vision, they're just like, wow, like I want to be a part of this. And this is awesome. How can I help this? Oh, you should connect with this. It's just like doors have been opening, the right people. Even if there is a challenge, it's not like a extended like 2, 3, 4, 5 year problem. It's like a problem for a couple of weeks or like a month until you kind of find the right person, or you network, and you kind of find the solution. Then it's like the doors kind of blast wide open again to grow and develop.
Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you.
Noble.
Bro! What's up, homie?
Oh, it's good to see you.
You too, bro.
Oh, man. This is how I want to start my mornings, right here. Just doing a red flannel and a beard.
How have you been, bro?
Oh, man. It's been really well. Really well. Yeah. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
Real estate stuff's going good?
It's been crazy, man. Yeah. It just kind of took off in January, both of them. So personal real estate and then the VetPCS site. I just hired on a military spouse to do all the admin stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it was getting to be too much to try to do, all of it. So it's been awesome, man.
That's exciting.
Yeah, thanks.
How's it feel?
It feels great, man. Yeah, it feels peaceful. It feels it feels exciting. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of at the point where people are starting to find it on their own.
Okay.
Agents and stuff like that. And we'll kind of, throughout this year, trying to like match it with demand too. So there's not like 15 or 20 agents in Colorado Springs, right? If there's only 10 people, using the site for Colorado Springs per year, it would be better to have like 5, maybe 4 or 5.
Okay, but as you have more people use the site, then you would scale. Is that how it would work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if people are starting to get, whatever, I mean, tons of it's like, okay, well, maybe it'll make sense because part of this site is also to help support veteran and military spouse businesses. It's not just to try to make, give people like a monopoly over one area or something. It's kind of giving choices, allowing people to like choose whatever agent they want to work with from the site, instead of me divvying them out or anything like that. It's just people choose whoever they want to work with.
Yeah. Okay.
But giving people enough choices.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, bro. So let's jump into the skinny.
I'm ready, man. Dude, I journaled this morning.
No way.
I did, man. I was like, what is it? What am I going to do? Like, how do I was like, I don't know how much time we have, but there's a lot to unpack, man, in like, an episode.
That's right. EQ Gangster Podcast and YouTube peeps. What? I am here with the one and only Apache Anderson.
But you're giving me PTSD already, okay?
Oh man.
Big triggers, man.
So Big Jason, we have been homies for a number of years now. He is a a former Apache pilot in the Army, and he is the founder, owner, president of VetPCS real estate company. And super excited for him to kind of just share a little bit about that because it has taken off and he is adding value to tons of military veterans, active duty and veterans, all over the country. And with a genius idea. When he first told me, he's like, "Hey, no, but what do you think about this?" I'm like, "Dude," I just about fell out of my chair. I was like, "This is going to be amazing when you put this together." And so he's put it together, and it is absolutely exploding all over the place because of the value that's adding to so many veterans and stuff. Now we're going to get, so that's, and I'm going to ask him some of that stuff too, but we're also going to get into some of his emotional growth journey from, and you guys know, they've been following me for a while, know I like to start as early as possible and kind of follow that arc and trajectory of somebody's emotional growth journey throughout the course of their life, and the impacts of that journey throughout their life as well, because most of us start out with little to no emotional health and intelligence, and there are consequences for that. And then as we start to discover and learn and make mistakes and stuff like that, and as we mature and grow in our emotional health and intelligence, there are benefits to that. And so I want to hear all that stuff too. So big Jason. So very quickly, before we jump into your emotional growth journey,
Yeah.
can you just tell us about your company? Tell us about this
Yeah.
company that you put together for veterans.
Yeah. So when I transitioned out of the Army a couple of years ago, ended up getting my license over COVID. And then as I was trying to figure out how to uh, get clients, right, in a military town where everybody's niche or a lot of people's niche is military, not just mine. And a lot of these people are very established, all that stuff. I was like, man, I don't know how do you connect with people? Like, where do people even go to find an agent when they get orders? Like I PCS, I don't know, like 6 or 7 times. Um, and I never heard of anything, aside from like people calling a friend or Google or, or like whatever. So I was like, what the heck? Like, why isn't there, and then I learned about this, like you can do referrals, so, if you know somebody, I was like, well, I don't know a lot of people here, but if I could refer people, some of my friends, if I could help them find a good agent, then that agent actually sends you part of the commission. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Like, even if I can't do business here, I could do business in the country. And that opens up a lot of, more of the network. And then it was like, man, like, why isn't there just a site that does this? Like, why isn't there just a site that just features veterans, military spouses who are now agents all over the country and the big thing is like, it doesn't charge them anything. So some of these websites that I was looking into were like, oh, if you just pay $3,000 a month, oh, if you pay $10,000 a month for one zip code with leads that close at a 1% close rate, I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, why not just make a site where like if you make money from it, then you owe money back to it, but like not an egregious amount, because some of those sites, a lot of great agents are not on those sites because they don't need to be. They don't want to pay that much of their commission or whatever. Like they work really hard. So yeah, that's like all of that kind of came together of like, why doesn't it just do this and this and this and this and this and this? And then I talked to a bunch of agents and they were like, yeah, that's genius. I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna make it. And here we are. So yeah.
And so clearly you have a background in programming and coding, right?
Of course not. No.
See,
Yeah.
which I love about entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We've been telling our daughter since she was 4, entrepreneurs figure it out.
Yep.
And dude, it's been so fun to watch your journey,
Yeah.
not having any kind of software or web or app background, tech background whatsoever, and you have a fire website that
Yeah.
adds so much value. So what does your website do?
Yeah. So when a family goes on there, they can look across the country. There's a little interactive map. They can find either a real estate agent or a mortgage lender who is a fellow veteran or military spouse. So if they're PCSing in 6 months, if they're moving, if they're a veteran, even if they're just a civilian family, they can still use the site, support a veteran or military spouse business there. And then part of it is that they get a bonus back. So it's based on the home price. So if somebody buys a house in the 400,000s, let's say, they would get $1,200 back. So it's basically military supporting military, where they get some money back. It's free to use. It's based on their home price, but it basically comes out of that like commission out of the sale.
But civilians can use the site as well, or no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can use it to find a veteran or to find it's like they're all great agents. So it's an easy way to just narrow your search down, support a veteran or military spouse business. And then their bonus goes to a veteran charity instead.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're like $1,200 or, $1,500 or whatever. And they get to choose, or like, we obviously would like kind of help them with that if they want, but find a local charity in their area, that's supporting the military community or something like that. But yeah. And then the mortgage lenders on there, are all experts in VA loans and, all of that stuff. So they can help somebody strategize and actually figure out what's right for them, because buying might not be right for them. Or in a certain area or based on their finances or whatever. So they can shoot them straight and actually strategize with them on buying a house, selling a house, etc. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's it.
Now, this may or may not be an appropriate question, because again, I don't know real estate. So if it's not appropriate, just you don't have to answer. But if I remember correctly, your close rate is a little bit different than 1%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the national average has been, it's like 0.6 to 1.2% or something like that close rate for a lot of lead generation sites. We've had, just as a couple, so we just hit our 1-year birthday, on the 16th of April.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And we just hit 100 people, basically 100 people have signed up through the site, and we're closing at about a 60 to 70% close rate.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's bring some emotion into this. So So you've been an entrepreneur for how long?
Oof.
Like
since the lemonade stand, man, like since a youngster. I mean, really, like since I would say 2015 is when it got serious. I was always entrepreneurial minded growing up.
Okay.
But 2015 is really when it, kind of started to take off. Away. Maybe not take off.
That'll be down the road here.
Yeah. The journey started. That's like 2015.
Okay, so 2015, you like legit of kind of officially started your entrepreneur kind of serious journey, and boom, you've essentially, this is maybe not the right phrase, but you've essentially struck gold with this genius idea that you have put together. And it's obviously it's still very much in the startup phase, and you're still putting stuff together, but so far so good. Like so far amazing. With what you've done. How does it feel? There are somewhat, like a buddy told me, I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, and this, the EQ gangster, EQ mafia stuff is all the executive leadership coaching stuff is going amazing. And a buddy of mine, he said, Noble, he said, man, it took you 20 years to be an overnight success. Right. That concept. So you started in 2015, you struck gold last year, basically, when you started this whole thing. How does it feel to kind of like, man, like and not to say, I don't want to say I did it, but like I'm doing it. Like it's happening. It's working. How does that feel as an entrepreneur?
It's unbelievable, man. I mean, it's energizing. It's invigorating. It's peaceful. And it is, man, it's unlike, it's surreal, really. Where it's like, sometimes I'm like, how is this? I don't even, like, this is my website. Like, and it like is making money. Like it's like, and it's got like the opportunity to scale and stuff. So it basically keeps a portion of every sale part of that goes back to the website, and if it's built to scale and it starts whatever, I mean, 1,000 people use it a year, 10,000 people use, it's like it can kind of serve as many people that use it. Yeah. So it's kind of just like, it's kind of weird, really, but it feels awesome.
Well, and I love what you threw in an emotion in there. You had some good ones. Invigorating is a great that's a great emotion. And the other one you said two emotions, I think, right? Invigorating, and what was the other one?
There was one, I think, that was energizing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
energizing. Okay, energizing, invigorating.
Yeah.
But then you said peaceful, bro. And
Yeah.
that is not an emotion that I think very many entrepreneurs would ever come out of their mouth
Right.
because of the hustle and grind culture of an entrepreneur, and not just the hustle and grind culture of an entrepreneur, but like in society, there's the hustle and grind culture, period.
Yeah.
Add on to that the entrepreneur kind of nuance dynamic. And it's almost like for many years, and again, we kind of were in the same world there for a number of years. It was a badge of honor to
Yeah.
be the most stressed, the most
Right.
hardest working, the most anxiety, the most,
Yeah.
well, I'm losing more sleep than you. So check me out. You know what I mean? And to be able to build your dream business, and well,
Yeah.
real quick, the consequence of the other way is how many people did we meet where their dream became their nightmare
Yeah.
because they had no balance, they had no boundaries, they had no emotional awareness. And on top of that, the culture was very emotionally unhealthy as well. It contributed to creating as much of a imbalance as possible.
Yeah.
And so to hear you say peaceful amidst energizing and invigorating is amazing. That's a it's a it, so for me, how I take that and receive that is that's a true testimony to the work that you have done, the emotional work you've done,
Right.
so that your dream doesn't become a nightmare.
Right.
How does
Yeah.
all that hit you?
That's, man, I mean, it's spot on. It's because I've done the other way, and that, and we can get into that. I've done the grinds. I have, you know, yeah, gone with an incredibly amount of little sleep, or trying to build something grow that's just like not, it's just like not peaceful, where it's not coming together and it's just like continuously falling apart and just not, you just kind of hit, dead end after dead end and everything like that. And there's obviously um, challenges and stuff like that in business. And this one hasn't been easy by any means, but it's just, it's, yeah, it's felt peaceful, where it's like the work that you put in, it's like, oh, like it's, it's growing, where it's like, it's, people are buying into the vision, they're just like, wow, like I want to be a part of this. And this is awesome. How can I help this? Oh, you should connect with this. It's just like doors have been opening, the right people. Even if there is a challenge, it's not like a extended like 2, 3, 4, 5 year problem. It's like a problem for a couple of weeks or like a month until you kind of find the right person or you network, and you kind of find the solution. Then it's like the doors kind of blast wide open again to grow and develop. So yeah, so that's been I don't know, probably the best part about this journey versus other entrepreneurial journeys that I've had, where it's like, man, it's just people are excited about it with me. They're excited about it for me. They're excited to be a part of it, to help support it. And just, yeah, the doors keep opening and it keeps moving in the right direction. And yeah, there's just been a lot of peace with it.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
The other big thing that I've noticed too, being a 25-year entrepreneur, and again, our shared mutual experience that we'll get into here in a little bit, is that in that other model, there was never a point where you could be satisfied or content because there was always more.
Right.
Always, like, even at the big baller levels, even at the big
Yeah.
cheese level, oh, what's next? Well, you
Right.
can't stay where you're at. Like, dude, come on. Like, what are you talking? Like, you got to keep like,
Right.
there was never, it was like it was literally the job of entrepreneurship.
Right.
And it's true because you could never get off the hamster wheel.
Right.
Unless you're the top 0.0000001%, maybe, but even then it was always a comparison contest with,
Right.
well, but anyway, so it's just, and I've done that too, like with my EQ gangster business, is really tried to appreciate and value and savor the moment that I'm in, and starting small and being happy
Yeah.
and content with small, and whoever I've got in front of me, trying to add the most value I possibly can in the moment, and not looking like, okay, hey Jason, I'm talking to you, but you know what, I got this other guy next coming up, like,
Right.
no, dude, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So that's another thing there. Okay, so now let's jump into it. So what how did your childhood
Yeah.
impact your emotional foundation?
Yeah. Yeah. That's there's a few big things that I've kind of unpacked over the last uh let's see, probably 2 years has been kind of my emotion, 2.5, 2 years ish. Um, so one of those, so growing up, one of the one of the main ones was um so emotions in my house and stuff like that. Mom and dad, like awesome, great parents, and like very much wanted to create a safe space for, emotions or being able to talk about it or anything like that. But I had a serious like rejection to sharing any emotions or having them. And not necessarily anything that they did. I don't know, it was just cultural or something like that. I was very much um, a late bloomer, so I was not as developed as peers. I've got an older brother, 2 years older, so that just in itself, it's like you're going to be not quite as fast or not quite as strong, than a brother that's 2 years older. So just, that already from childhood, which is basically just inevitable. And then in, let's see, probably late grade school, junior high, middle school, whatever, was when like peers started to become more athletic, and I was not, or I was not developing at the same rate, basically. And now it's like people would be like, wait, what? Like people would never know that. I mean, if you looked at my senior pictures, at 18, you'd be like, dude, you are 13 in that picture. I'd be like, nope, I was 18 in that photo. So I was just did not develop, at that rate. So with that, it became like not being as fast or as strong or as good at sports or like different things. Um, and then that would be like feelings of, being inferior or weak or not, not measuring up, not desired or wanted or admired, those things. So all these kind of wounds. And then it was, again, it was, I feel like my mom always like wanted to try to crack like some of these emotions. But I was like, I'm not going to like feel any emotions or share them or talk about them, because that's just going to make it even worse. What am I going to cry about it? I already feel weak. So then I'm going to cry about feeling weak. Well, that's like double weak, man. Like that's not going to help. So just stuff it, move on, be good at something, find out what I can do, or just stay positive. Basically, it was just like stay positive, stay positive, stay positive the whole time. Was kind of my mantra. And yeah, so that was a big thing from childhood, was just um, being a stuffer, avoider, false peacemaker, was another one. And then kind of with that, it was like, all of I'm a big feeler, as far as I can kind of like set, if I'm around somebody, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're in a good mood, they're in a bad mood, they're feeling this. I can probably almost like name an emotion for them. A lot of times, not every time, right? But like, so that growing up, if there was issues in the house, right? Like every family goes through hardships. Every marriage goes through fights, stuff like that. So I'd be like, oh, like something's off with mom. What's going on here? Something's off with dad. You know, both of them are off, are like, okay, what's going on? They're obviously they wouldn't share it with us, right? We're kids. But it's like, oh, something's happening. Or if, there was a fight or if there was like issues going on at home or something like that, um, I wouldn't express any emotion about it or have any feelings about it, again, because it was like, well, that's going to make things worse. If mom's already upset, if dad's already upset, if what, and then I'm upset, like that's not gonna do anything. That's just gonna make them feel even worse. So how do I just peace make basically, or stuff my own emotions, or not have them to not contribute to any further issues or anything like that. So that was kind of the emotional dynamic for me, yeah, growing up.
When when did you start to even become aware of emotions, period?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I mean, I always uh I knew them, and I would say that I knew what I was feeling and stuff like that, but it was bare, but I would not share it or let it out.
Hmm.
So I think I mean, I can remember back from, yeah, I mean, childhood. I mean, I could point out like, oh, I'm feeling embarrassed, or oh, I'm feeling rejected, or oh, I'm feeling
Really?
sad. Oh yeah, I'm feeling,
How old were you?
oh man, I don't know.
Dude,
I mean, I
that's
probably knew
amazing.
that stuff and I don't think I like processed in my mind, but if it
Sure.
was like, oh, this is, um, I could probably name a lot of emotions, in like high school and stuff like that.
Wow.
But
Dude, that's great.
I
So,
didn't
okay,
really go through that, until like the last couple of years, actually
yeah, sure.
naming them and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing, so that's awesome that you developed that awareness as a kid, dude. That's incredible. That's phenomenal. Uh, it also, and so I'm going to extrapolate something, and you tell me if I'm on or not. But the way you talked about something, the what did you say? Always got to be positive. Always got to be positive.
Right.
It's and again, tell me if I'm wrong here. It sounds like you had developed positivity as a coping mechanism during your childhood.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Is
Yeah.
that
It was
is that
like,
accurate? Okay.
yeah, because and a lot of it I think is tied to identity as well, right? Where it's like, oh, I don't want to be seen, this way, or I don't want to be known as that, like I'm not gonna be like seen as whatever emotional or as down or something like that. It's like, um, and there's very much a true self to that too, so false self, true self, that's like in a lot of books. So there's very much a true self side to being positive, but there's also a false self side. So, it's not all bad, obviously, being positive and stuff like that, but certainly a coping mechanism, or really I would say more of an escape from actually feeling hard emotions. So instead of like feeling sad or allowing myself to feel rejected or allow myself to feel angry at somebody or my parents or whoever, it was it was an escape where it was just like, I don't have to feel that. I can just feel positive and I can just look towards the future, the next thing, what's coming up, be positive about this or whatever, or do things that, make me happy or something like that as a escape, really.
That's great. Wow,
Yeah.
I've never thought about it like that, but yeah, you're exactly right. Because that was for me. Like, dude, I was 100% toxic positivity, and optimism was like my drug of choice. It was
Right.
my that was my, if there was any, and I don't even like to say negative anymore because they're not negative or bad emotions. It's pleasant or unpleasant, comfortable or uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
it's not good or bad. It's so anyway, but any unpleasant or uncomfortable emotions, it was almost like it was I did not allow myself any the second I felt any kind of pressure from
Yeah.
that unpleasant emotion, I would well, like I immediately kick in my optimism, my positivity,
Right.
which obviously is super unhealthy. Okay, so what? Let's go into some of this other experience now. Okay, how? Okay, let's do another phase of your life. So, military. How emotionally healthy or emotionally intelligent do you feel you were during your military season prior to this business experience that we're going to go into a little bit?
I would say not emotionally healthy.
Really?
I don't think so.
And why do you say
Yeah.
that?
Because of um, the lack of having um, a lot of emotions, or like or allowing myself to actually process or feel certain emotions instead of just like nope, like just drive on, move on. Um, yeah, and there's obviously a need for that, right? Like not to discredit that. I mean, you have to do that, and there's responsibilities as a leader, and to lead people, and to a lot of times lead with positivity and whatnot. But um, yeah, I don't think I ever really. I think I self-soothed as well with like experiences or going out and doing things. So instead of like, you know, if it was feelings of loneliness or unhappiness or anger or instead of allowing myself to like either feel those or process those or feel like where those are coming from, it was like, well, let me just again escape any uncomfortable emotion by going and doing something, going out, whatever, partying or traveling and all that stuff. And again, there's a true self to a lot of these things and a false self, but we're kind of just going through the false self side. Um, so yeah, I would say that it wasn't, um, I did well, in the things that I put my mind to and everything like that. But looking at the whole picture of it, was it super emotionally healthy? I wouldn't say so, especially some of the stuff going on with family. My parents had gone through a divorce, with relationships with friendships and stuff like that. There was really just kind of a lack of emotional depth at all. It was just like happy and excited. And that's like kind of it, so just kind of shallow, really.
So, so it's almost like, yeah, I mean, it's almost like we take our the emotional foundations we get when we're children. I mean, we literally just take that into adulthood.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is kind of what it sounded like. You know what I mean? To a degree, and I think other stuff exacerbates that foundation and kind of ex, expands on the or maybe puts more layers on top of all those emotions that we've buried. We try to put more
Right.
space between ourselves and our emotional injuries in hopes of, okay, I can bury those will never impact me or affect me
Right.
anymore, which, as we know, is not the case. um,
Yeah.
okay, okay, you've mentioned a couple times now the true self and the false self.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Can you explain that, unpack that for me?
Yeah. So a great example would be, so even desire to serve in the military. So growing up, so emotional woundings right from growing up of not measuring up or not being fast enough, strong enough, not uh, being as developed, like seen as a jock or seen as one of these guys or something like that. And so those kind of woundings of like wanting to be desired, wanting to be admired, wanting to be seen as important or successful or whatever, um, or all these things, right? And then or like doing something like you know dangerous and exciting or something, which is kind of that like admiration that a lot of guys look for. I think is this, and there's a certainly a true self to that, right? Of like doing something that you're proud of, doing something that is based on strong character, doing something that has like ethical like purpose to it, or um, there's certainly like a true self side to like having admiration or doing, something that you're proud of or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But there is, I would say the false self would be like, oh, if I'm a Apache pilot, then I'll be seen as a man. Oh, if I'm a, whatever Ranger, then I'll measure up. Then people will see me as important. Then I'll matter. Then I'll, have weight in society as somebody that's important or somebody that's looked up to, right? So I would say that's the false self, but a sense of service, a sense of challenging yourself, a sense of, defending freedom, right? Or like serving the military or serving a greater, bigger purpose, a bigger organization. That's absolutely true self side of that, having adventure and seeking that kind of like out of the box life or, doing something like that would be like the true self side.
That's
So,
great. So it's almost like what impacts whether or not it's true or false self is where is it coming from,
yeah,
right?
I would
It's
say
kind of
insecurities would be the false self.
got it.
Fears would be the
Yeah.
false self. Pains or wounds would be a lot of times the false self.
Oh, that's great.
I think insecurities is huge.
Yeah. Well, all those pains, wounds, I
Yeah.
mean,
Everything.
dude, that's huge. That's great because, dude, I think if folks sat down and really did an inventory of true self
Right.
versus false self,
Yeah.
the percentage of things that we find ourselves either having done in our life and or are currently doing in our life, a truckload of them would I feel like the false self column would outweigh the true self column in
Right.
many, many, many people. I know for me,
Sure.
until 4 years ago, dude, as a people pleaser addict, dude, every single decision I did
Yeah.
was in some way or another trying to get validation or
Right.
affirmation or approval from somebody else,
Yeah.
anybody else. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I would have told you, no, I get my identity from the Lord, Jason. I mean,
Right.
don't you
Yeah.
understand how much I love Jesus? I'm just this holy
Right.
guy. That was all. I knew the head thing to say. I knew
Yeah.
the church answer to say, but I did not had not realized that no, no, dude, you're actually living for people. You're not
Right.
living for, for God. So that's great. That's huge, bro. Okay, so now okay, so you and I again had this mutual kind of business experience.
Yeah.
Emotionally, okay, so emotionally, how did you how did you get attracted to that environment?
Yeah.
And then what was that environment like emotionally? And let me preface it with this.
Yeah.
I have been surprised at the number of people that have had experiences with toxic leaders
Oh yeah.
and toxic cultures.
Right.
And again, maybe it was because I was naive and like, oh no, that doesn't happen very often. The more I've talked about it, the
Right.
more I hear like, oh, dude, I totally relate with that. Oh man, I've had a toxic leader. Oh, I've had toxic organizations. I had no idea. So I think a lot of people can relate with this. Is why I'm asking you this stuff here. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what
So one of
what
these.
attracted you, and then
Yeah.
what
So
was
I'll
it
kind of,
like?
I guess unpack a couple like major revelations or like some big heavy hitting moments, and then kind of get the backstory. So one of the things that I've mentioned before, that was a huge like awakening moment, was kind of discovering this like paradox of like the very things that I have been running from so hard, uh, have actually become the very thing that I'm running to, and that just, I mean, it blew my mind. And
Can
I
you give
still,
me an example? Because that's huge. That's my
yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah. So I'll kind of unpack that whole thing. The other thing that actually just kind of came up this morning was like, um, understanding like who's in your car, like if your life is a, like true self, false self, it's like understanding who's in your car and who's giving you directions. Like if I was trying to think of like a way to conceptualize, uh, yeah, like this emotional journey or something like that. Um, And it's almost like if your life is like one big van, right? And there's a bunch of passengers in there. Some people's moms in there yelling at them like, oh, don't forget to stop. Don't go too fast. Don't do that. Look out for this. Somebody's dad's in that car. Somebody's childhood with their wounds is in that car, yelling directions or doing this. And these people are fighting in this van, and you're just kind of driving the car. And if with, I think, poor emotional awareness or self-reflection or maturity, it's like you're taking all these inputs from like, oh, no, the childhood wants to get off on this exit, but mom's screaming saying no, dad's doing this, or dad's checked out or whatever. And there's all these like, it's a bus full of, nutcases that are all yelling at somebody, you trying to drive your own car, which is life, and that's like, I don't know, kind of one of these like concepts that came up this morning. So you'll kind of like see those, as I unpack this whole thing. But one of the big woundings from childhood was finances. So, growing up, and I could always kind of pick up like, oh, there's like something wrong, or that again, like something's off, mom and dad are fighting, or like, but I developed a sense of like, oh, money can be a source of fights, or money, if you don't have enough of it that you don't even worry about it, then it becomes stress. Money leads to like stress. It leads to whatever, fights or issues, different things. So it's like, okay, I need to like figure this whole money thing out from a pretty young age, where it was like, I need to like just figure out money as soon as I can in life so that I never have to worry about it, and that it never affects like any part of my life. So that was like from pretty early on. Didn't really start to manifest until I joined this business in 2015. So came back from Afghanistan and, was kind of now in this place of like, well, I don't really know if I'm going to stay in for a full career, if I'm going to get out. I kind of want to do something entrepreneurial. I definitely want to find a way to like make more money. And then lo and behold, like this whole business opportunity comes together, or is like presented in this like leadership model and manner where I'm like, oh, I'm super passionate about leadership. I do like, people, and I like reading and growing and all this stuff. So I was like, wow, like this whole like business model around like leadership and, development and all this stuff, was like, I can get behind this. And if I can make, double my income in the Army doing this on the side, like I can do this, everything that I put my mind to, like I'll figure out. And so it was like, okay, I'm gonna, jump right in. And also wanted to, another part of that whole story. So yeah, anyway, the whole thing I'm running from, right, this whole money issue becomes really what I end up running to, where it's like, oh, make good financial choices, be wise in finances, right? Like all these things that those are what I'm trying to do, to like master money and have financial freedom and have, money working for me instead of me working for money, and all these concepts and kind of buzz terms and words or whatever. So I, kind of jump right in to like see this as, at first it was just a way, right? It was like a way to fix it. And then over time, right, with like, I consider it like cult-like organizational leadership and just culture, where it goes from like a way to slowly over time, it becomes the way. And then, as you do, more and more to try to like make this business happen and all this stuff, and like grinding so hard to try to like create this business system and this organization or whatever, it becomes like, this is the only way. And there's nothing else to, like I have to make this happen. And there's no other answer, so it's just kind of this like slow slide over time, which with that became making not the best like financial choices, investing a lot of tens of thousands of dollars into try to create this, like getting this business to work. And it's just not working. And it's like slowly suffocating me over time and stripping more and more life away, stripping more and more of the true self away. More and more of the false self is like coming out in these insecurities, in these fears, in these in striving, in trying to make it happen, all these things. And it's just like slowly over time, it's changing and shifting. And then finally, when I, decided, I was like, man, like, I think I need to leave I think I need to walk away from this business thing, like this whole like kind of cult organization. Like, it's toxic and I don't really understand why or anything, but like I've just got this gut feeling and this heart, like I think I need to like step away. And did, and then kind of this realization of like, oh, the very thing that I was running from, right? Fears of money and being controlled by money, I was actually running to where I was heavily controlled by money. I was heavily controlled by, whatever financial decisions, or I was way overextending myself financially to try to, if I just invest more money, if I just put in more work, if I just don't give up, and I keep overextending myself or putting more in, eventually it's going to work. And then it was kind of this realization of like, that's exactly what I was like trying to avoid. And I'm literally at what I was running from so hard. And that's happened a second time in a different way, but that's kind of the one big example.
Massive takeaways, massive. It's almost like if you are emotionally needy, you are going to get sucked up in something like that or in a
Right.
relationship like that. And a question is like, who has who who are you? Let's see. I'm trying to figure out the question here. Who do you try to defend? Would be a
Right.
question, right? To just as a checkup, like, because back in those days, dude, I would have defended those guys.
Right.
Hey, you don't rip on those. Hey, these are my people, right? These are my.
Right.
Okay, well, it's the whole thing. Like, who has your heart?
Right. Or what has your heart?
That's exactly right. So I know we've only got a few more
Yeah.
minutes left here, Jason, but dude, that was fire awareness, and I can't wait to go back through and review. Where are you? What has your emotional growth journey? What's your emotional fitness program look like now?
Yeah.
How have you gotten emotionally healthier?
Yeah. It's one of the biggest denominators in the whole thing has been this true self and false self thing. One of the other major realizations in my emotional journey was the attempt to it's been this long lasting attempt to restore my sense of home through all of these other things. So, and there's been a lot of false self through that has shown through that. Not an unworthy journey by any means, right? Home is incredibly important. It didn't really hit me until maybe a year ago that's where a lot of this was coming from, even more so than the money side, right? So one of the things that happened in my journey was I graduated college 2012. My parents and I went straight to flight school. So like my dreams are like starting to come true, to where it's like I'm at flight school and now I'm, months away from selecting the Apache helicopter that I've wanted to fly for years or whatever. My parents get divorced. So I had no idea how to handle that, process it, anything like that. I think I cried a little bit when I heard over the phone. And then I basically stopped myself from having any emotion. I went out and took 3 shots of Jack Daniels. And then I went out with my friends to a bar and was like, I'm just not going to think about this. So that was my processing. And then it became this journey. So like this whole business thing, it was like, oh, if I can have not only like this, whatever money, but if I can do something important, right? Or if I can do something worth admiration, then like, oh, I'll have this marriage that I've always, wanted. I'll have a wife that looks up to me, and admires me and desires me and sees me as a good man and all these things. So it's this like trying to like construct this sense of home and life and identity or whatever, but then choosing to do it through this like whole kind of business way. Like again, like a lot of just a lot of false self stuff came out of that. So I can look back and see even throughout relationships, right? So like dating relationships, I'm not married. Um, but I've seen that in dating relationships. So after I left the military, and then after I left this whole business organization, it's like 2 months later, all I had left that I really like cared about was a relationship that I was in. And then that became my mission to restore home. So then that became the very thing where I was like, if I can just get this to work, I'll just be whoever I need to be. I'll do whatever I need to do in order to get this to work, because I need this to fix my sense of home and restore my sense of home from, that just kind of tragically got lost and I really didn't know how to process it or whatever. And now that's what I tried to gain through the business. It's what I felt a lot of times in the Army, which was, having community and friends and, all this stuff, like had a sense of home in the Army. When that disappeared, this whole business thing that I was like trying to figure out how to work, that disappeared. Then it was like, okay, how do I get this to be my fulfillment? And then that ended, and then things came crashing down, dude, crashing down. And that's when I started journaling, and a lot of this stuff just came from like journaling, reading a lot of books, and then talking to people like you, man.
Bro, fire! I think we need 2 or 3 more interviews,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, yeah. We'll do volume 2 and 3, man.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there's a ton. There's a
Yes.
lot. There's a lot.
Oh, dude. No, and I want to. We'll figure out another
Yeah,
time to do the next, because I feel like we just scratched the surface of
yeah,
some of
oh,
those
yeah,
some of those big epiphanies that you had, because those are massive, and I think they're going to add a lot of value to a lot of people. How do we connect with you? What's your
yeah,
website? Tell us all that.
yeah, yeah. So veteranpcs.com is the website, and it's a lot of people that are civilians probably have no idea what that means. It's kind of intentional because you don't need to. It attracts the right people, which are military people, because they know what PCS stands for. So it's like kind of working in a good way. But it's yeah, so that's the website. All of our social media stuff is just veteran PCS, whatever, at veteran PCS, stuff like that. And then I'm just, I'm Jason, man. I'm Jason Anderson. You can just connect with me directly on yeah, all this stuff, social media or whatever.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, brother. Totally appreciate your
Yeah.
vulnerability, your
Yep.
transparency, and thank you, dude, for all the work that you've done
Yep.
to get where you're at, man. Super excited about all
Yep.
you're doing, brother.
Yeah. You've been an inspiration, man.